Hi everyone. So probably not surprisingly, I give a lot of talks and presentations, and so I put together a lot of presentations. And I choose not to do it in PowerPoint. I find PowerPoint to be very frustrating because I can't control the environment in as in a tight fashion. Now you can choose to do your PowerPoint in or your presentation in PowerPoint. That's completely up to you. But I wanted to give you a alternate process. I'm not going to show you how to use PowerPoint. I'm going to show you how to use InDesign to create that. So this is one of my presentations, and I typically like to make sure that people know where I'm from and what the presentation's about. So this is my intro screen. And I can have as many screens as I want. So basically what I do is I set up a master page with all those things that I want to have happening, and then I start fleshing it out. And so we're going to work through that right now. The first thing I want to do is, go to document size, and you guys will see that this is 1280 pixels by 720, which is pretty standard size. And I'm going to hit cancel. I just wanted to note that just so that, I refresh myself with the size that I use. So I'm going to go to File, down to New, and I know you can't see File, over to Document. And I'm going to go to Web here because that's the only way I'm going to be able to get pixels. And so my width is going to be 1280. I'm going to drop that in. And my height is 720. So you guys know that I like to control everything, and so I'm going to zero out all of my margins because if I have guidelines, I like to put them in there myself. So I'm going to hit Create, and I'm going to get my new document. So the first thing I do is I come over here to Master. Now in that first design that I showed you, I had a bar at the bottom where it continually told people who I was, where I was from, and what my presentation was about. We're going to design this a little differently because, why not? So what I've decided to do is come over here, and I like 1/3, 2/3. So I'm going to give myself a bar. It's actually not a bar, it's more of a box. And I'm going to fill that box with black. Now, I have to decide what my information is. That's where I'm going to put my information, who I am, and what my presentation's about. So I'm going to make this presentation about should have thought about a title before I started this. All right, so we're going to talk on Coca-Cola logo and evolution. Now, I had to be really thoughtful about this, and that's what gave me pause for a minute, because I couldn't just put Coke logo and evolution, because Coke can actually stand for other things other than Coca-Cola. And, that's really, their name. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm thinking about history. I'm going to do Coca-Cola logo / evolution, and that's what I'm going to title it. So I'm going to put it in this box. I want it to be flush right, and I am going to use, not surprising, my favorite sans serif Frutiger. I'm going to make it black. And the one thing I know is I need to make that white because I'm going to be putting it over my space here. And then I'm going to increase the size till I feel comfortable. I can make this larger. Oops. I just made it smaller. Great. All right, too large. And then I'm just going to put my name down here. Learning how to do these is really important because you may be asked to do this professionally as a way to possibly get a job or to present to a client. So we're going to try to start becoming more comfortable with that. And I don't need to be, my name doesn't need to be large here. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm sure that you guys will be a lot more thoughtful about the process than I'm being here. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of define the space. So I'm going to give myself some guidelines about where image can go and how large it can be. So I'm going to give myself a margin, and I'm going to put a line right here. And so this is where my images can start. I'm going to come over here and use my pen tool to give a line. And this is just kind of creating, interest in the space. 0.5 black. Is what I'm going to go for. I'm going to hit Command Z. I'm using a keyboard that's not a Mac keyboard, so it's taking me sometimes a little bit longer. It's amazing how frustrating something like that can be. So I'm going to leave it like that. The other thing I want to do is I want to make this an area where I can kind of come in and make points. So I'm just going to call it Notes as a title, and then I'm just going to bullet point quick information. And this is helpful. So if somebody is taking notes for your project, it's always great if you're giving them kind of the highlights over here. And, this isn't necessarily necessary. I'm just, talking about the things that I consider. One of the things that you might find important, I don't. Keep in mind, and I'm using what is, standard for body copy, but you should always be testing this, and you can certainly test it in the classroom. There'll be time that you can project and make sure that everything's working out. I'm just going to give myself a couple of bullet points where I could drop in information. One of the things that I want is I want my bullet points to have a little bit of space between them. So I'm going to give them a little bit of leading. And again, this is image over here. I had already pulled up some of the images that you can come across of how the logo, the Coke logo has changed over time. So I'm just going to pull one of those down and see if it dropped in, and then I'm just going to drop it in. You know, you can go to File, down to Place, but I'm just dropping it in. And so we need to make this a little bit smaller. And I hold down Shift and Scale. Oops. And so this is the area that I've defined. I have to decide, you know, if I want to kind of keep it moving this way, and I do. And so, yeah, that's, you know, my basic template. I've been working in master pages, so I can now drop down here and I can add as many pages. I'm going to have all of those elements. It's not necessarily like important to have an image because we don't necessarily want to lock an image in. But down here, it's great if we can, and remember, Command Shift unlocks things. The beautiful thing about master pages is, you know, unless they're unlocked, you're not going to have the ability to move them around. So I can now come in and edit these things that I want. This I'll probably never want to edit, you know, and add whatever images I want. If you look back at my presentation, you can see that I kind of use the space, you know, in a lot of different ways, you know, in terms of showing work. So there's a lot going on, and I have to think through what is best for the composition that I'm creating. But in the end, you really, you know, the things that you want to make sure is that you have the title of your presentation, your name clearly on each, that whatever you're putting up here in terms of information, if it's text, that it's simple and quick. So if somebody wants to take notes, you know, you're not gonna put the text that you intend to use during your talk there, and that you have an image area because as somebody in the audience, we want to be visually engaged, and we're talking about something that's very visual here. So those are the important things to think about. You can do it in a million different ways. I would encourage you to go look at presentation options in a Google search. So the last thing that I want to show you is the way that I produce this. I do Adobe PDF presets. I make it press quality. The one thing that I like about this is that if you ever wanted to hand this out, you could print it out and hand it out. I'm going to do, well, let's save this first. Save as. And we'll put it on the desktop, and I'll put logo demos so that if I ever need to come back to this, I can. Presentation. So after I've made all the changes, added everything that I want, I'm going to do press quality. Now, before I do that, really the best option is to unlock all of your text and create it to outlines. Since you're not printing this off, you shouldn't have a need to do that, but you know, if you want to be extra cautious, this is a PDF, and the only time I've seen PDFs corrupt are when you go to print them. So you shouldn't have a need to turn those into outlines. Just, you know, FYI, last thoughts before we create our PDF. Press quality, and I'm going to do final P logo. And I'm going to save. Now this is important. We do not want to do spreads. We want to do all. We want to do press quality up here. And then we want to come down to Acrobat 8. Acrobat 5 actually has weird issues with transparencies, I think. And then you're going to export. Now, I will say that if you are doing a large presentation and you have a lot of large images, it could take a long time to produce this. And it also may slow you down when you're clicking between things. So be really very careful about, too many high-res images. That shouldn't be a problem in this presentation, but I know some of you might be in senior project right now, or not senior project, senior seminar, and senior seminar has you doing presentations. And if you're using high-res versions of your own work, it will slow down significantly. So let's go ahead and take a look at that PDF. So the only thing that we're doing now is, using it to show. So we're going to go to View, down to full screen mode. And you're not going to see the full screen because I don't have my design, or I don't have the full screen selected when I went to make this video. But then after that, you're just going to use the arrow buttons to go back and forth. Now you're not seeing any changes because the design is exactly the same on page to page. But if we had done, different designs, we'd be flipping through page 1 through 4 or 5, I think is what we did. And then after you're done with your presentation, if you just hit escape, it'll go back to the size it was. All right. I hope that helps. Thanks. Bye.